ruling. Okay, well, we have, our timekeeper is not here today. Good. The one we're scheduled to do this time is alternating between the personal meditation and the impersonal meditation. And maybe we should turn the light off.
So it's in the hall.
Over there.
Go in the hall. There.
So in the personal, focusing on the image, and the impersonal is on focusing on the inner infinite or the inner ocean. By the way, Baba did one time, probably more than once, give as a way of saying his name on your breath. For anyone who wants to do that. I do that a lot.
So, Board, do you have someone timing it?
Have anyone?
Timing it? I
Melissa will do
I've
that.
got chimes set for what we have to
So these would be 6 1-minute slots. Can you do that?
do. 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, I can do that, yeah, I was gonna do 5 minutes, I'm sorry. I wasn't listening, I was just saying. Okay, I'm ready.
We're up into 6 minutes.
Okay. So I'm happy to do more this one.
Every day another minute.
Yeah. I know, we're going to be yogis in caves before we're done.
And you tell me when you want to start, you can just say start. and I'll-
Okay. You guys ready? Okay, start. Okay. Did your minds go blank?
Oh, no. Absolutely. Maybe next
I
time.
found it interesting when the picture changed, that his, like looking at it negatives, if he was still there
Oh,
on the blank screen
oh,
in negative form.
in your mind, yeah.
I saw it. I mean, you know, like how your eyes, when you look at light and then you
Yeah.
close your eyes, you see the reflection in your,
Ah,
don't you? Anyway.
Mm-hmm. I have the same thing.
Yeah.
the same thing. The actual time frame Baba gives for this is 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. We're doing a quickie version of it. Sometime I should actually do it for an hour and see what happens. I've never actually done it.
After the course, just in
in your
case
spare time.
your mind crashes.
Yeah.
The objective is to remain conscious with no mind.
Yeah. Yeah, Baba did say about that, just the impersonal meditation of the, infinite ocean within. He said the purpose of that is not to make the mind blank, but the purpose of the alternation between these two extreme opposites is to do that. It's like a saw cutting through a log, he said. Yeah. Okay, well, I think that the first part of this, let's try to go through to the beginning of the actual new life itself. This announcement was sent out on 10th of October. Meher Baba ends his old life of multifarious activities. With a few companions, begins his new life of complete renunciation and absolute helplessness from October 16, 1949. Although Baba's and his companions' new life will be known to everyone, and their whereabouts will be no secret, no one should try to see Baba or his companions for any reason whatsoever, as Baba will not see any of them, nor allow his companions to do so. No one should try to communicate with Baba or his companions under any circumstances, for any reason whatsoever.
And so that hold.
Yeah. There are a few people who kind of crashed, but it was rare. Now, I don't know to whom the circular went out. Most of them went out within India. So I don't know how people in the West found out about it.
Because Ivy Deuce was trying to, no, that was 48, wasn't it?
She did see Baba in 48.
Yeah,
She
so
got
that
him in
was
48.
before.
But there weren't that many followers in the West, and maybe they were enough in touch with each other to have an idea. I don't know to what extent people in the West really knew what was going on. So Baba was giving these different communications over the 2 months leading into the new life. So here's one of them. And Baba said, I will help all of you not only to prepare yourselves to abide by the conditions of the new life, but I will also help you to prepare for the fulfillment of the pre-planned end. All this help terminates by January 1st, 1950. There will be many occasions after this date in your new life which will make you feel nonplussed. You know the word nonplussed? Absolutely bemused, absolutely baffled. At a loss as to what to think, say, or do. You should not misunderstand such occasions as helplessness. The whole of your new life, from its very start to the end, is nothing but literally a life of helplessness. There is a profound difference between a state of regular helplessness, so that's the baseline of new life, and when one becomes nonplussed. One can easily live and lead a sane life of regular and utter helplessness, but to survive sanely a single moment when one is nonplussed under the strain of helplessness and in fulfillment of responsibilities is unimaginable. So I mentioned this example the other day. Take a simple example. I have said, and when I am dead, it will be the responsibility of my companions in the new life to bring my body to the tomb at Meherana. It seems so very easy and quite simple. Now, let's say when I drop my body, we are in Tibet, and to fulfill this responsibility with sheer helplessness as your only asset in favor of your credit balance, will it not be impossible to bring the body to Meherana? You cannot charter a plane to bring my body. You cannot preserve my body for days together. You cannot contact Sarosh to help as usual for a ready conveyance, since there is no telegraph office in Tibet, and also your conditions forbid you to contact him. So they're in an impossible situation. He's illustrating, giving that as an illustration. He gave the other illustration, if both hands are incapacitated, they couldn't eat. I guess that's not being nonplussed, that's just being hungry. So he was, this is what the new life will often lead to. This will be a case where you will be nonplussed, you will be at a loss as to what to think, say, or do. There will be many such occasions when amidst your utter helplessness and with the burden of fulfillment of responsibility, you will have to face the new life and the end. I kept using this word, the end.
Yeah.
The anthropologist Gregory Bateson at Stanford,
Mike?
is it working?
He's using the mic, is it not?
Doesn't sound good if it's on.
Is it on?
Is it on?
Put it closer to your mouth and talk.
Closer to my mouth. There we go.
Yeah, okay, I think it's on now.
So about this time, the anthropologist Gregory Bateson joined a bunch of psychologists at Stanford, and they came up with a model of the double bind. That's where you're damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Sounds like that, doesn't it?
Right. And their proposition was that the stress of not being able to go forward or not being able to go backwards in an irresolvable conundrum prompted a transcendence, something new, something novel,
Wow.
that we partook of neither option, but created something entirely different. And they developed this elaborate model of creativity as just such a proposition. And it was about the same time as the new life. And I'm wondering if Baba, in that expression, I'm in Tibet, I'm dead, you can't call anyone, you have no means to fulfill my requirement of you. It's kind of like the Zen koan that has no...
defeating the mind or the will in this case also. Yeah, that's interesting. So these are the people who went on the new life. So Mera, Mani, Miru, Goher. Look at some of these photos in a second, just to get the cast of characters in mind. And then the men, there's Gustaji, Adi, who was Baba's secretary, going into the new life, William Donkin, the only Westerner, Dr. Nilkant Godse, that's Dr. Nilu. And he was there, well, to the end. I mean, a lot of them were in Hyderabad during the Manonash period. Dr. Abdul Ghani Munsif, Sadashev Shalke, or Sadashev Patel. He was a very early disciple from 1922 or maybe even earlier than that. I think before the Mansalini. Vishnu Jarukar, I think he was from the early Pune days also. When Baba had rented that room where they would do prayers in the Kashmir part of Pune. Murli Kale, 30 years old, Meher Ashram boy, son of Kalabama, J.K. Jakal, Anna 104. He was, again, another early one. He'd been there in the Mansalini period. Baba Das Dharmale, he was, I don't know when he joined Baba. Does anyone happen to know? I think in the previous 10 years. He had long hair and looked like a guru. He was the only one who looked like that. Daulat Singh, here you have an actual Sardarji, a Singh, Sikh. He was from Hyderabad at the time. Earlier he had been up in, where are the Sikhs from? I'm forgetting the state. Punjab. I think he was from there. But maybe during the riots, they went, at partition, I think he might have moved with his family down to Hyderabad. A.S. Baria, that's Kaka Baria, who had been with Baba since the late 20s. He was the cook, and he also kept the money.
Kaka is an honorific meaning uncle.
Uncle, yeah. And the Jafra Bardi, that's Baidul. He was from Iran originally, but he was the great master must hunter. There had been others, but he wound up being the most important of them. Ali Akbar Shapur Zaman. And during the New Life, he got the sobriquet Alaba. And they're up in North India. Some areas were very Hindu and hostile to Muslims because there had been all this violence. And so Baba gave him the name Alaba because it sounded more Hindu. He also gave the name Ganaba to Ghani, but that didn't stick, as it turned out. And then we have Erich Jeswala. So, yeah.
In the incident of Baba renaming Ali Akbar, doesn't that action contravene his statement as the conditions sworn before God that one could not expect Baba to rescue a companion from extremes?
Well, I don't know if Baba ever prohibited their coming to the aid if someone is in trouble, but they alone are responsible before God. That's there.
Yeah.
But they could help somebody. And anyway, this was anticipatory. This was before the event.
Oh.
What was that? No, they would help people, I don't think that was ever prohibited that I can see. You guys, what do you think? We should vote on whether Baba was breaking the conditions or not from time to time.
I don't think it was.
Huh? Okay, well, here are some photos. This is from 1948, but it was, nonetheless, shows the women. There's Meru, who is the niece of Mera. There's Mani, and there's Goper. Here we have, okay, then there were there are three categories: yes wallas, no wallas, and arrangement wallas. And the arrangement wallas had certain responsibilities, keeping money, attending to certain practical issues that would arise. They couldn't be in regular contact with Baba, they could just be responsive when something relevant to their duties came up. So this is Naraman. Probably most of you haven't met these people, right? When I first went in 72, I stayed in Sarosh's house, Vilu Villa it was called. He died just 6 months after that. This is Merji Karkaria, businessman. He had a business in Pune later years. Jal Karawala, who was quite a high-ranking guy within the Indian bureaucracy, and Ramju Abdullah, who we've seen as the author of a number of things. He was with Baba from 1921. So these guys played a big role throughout the new life. And then we have, here are some other, these. Actually, Ali Shah came into play in the new life a fair bit. And here are some of the men. Okay, not all of these are, I know it's a little hard to see, isn't it? Anyway, I think this is Anna Jakal, who was one of the companions, Anna 104. This is Murli. Gee, on my own computer I can see better than you can see here. Do you know who this is? Maybe other people identify.
Baidu,
Baidul, how about that?
Erich,
Erich.
Chogan.
Chuggin. Now, you know who this is?
That's, oh, that's Farhan.
Farhan working Boxwell.
Yeah.
Wish you could see his face. His character's right in his
You
face.
see the little tilt of his head.
Yeah.
And Dr. Nilu,
Yeah, this is Nilu.
and then Joe.
Jao, Baba's brother.
And Kakabar.
Kakabaria. So Nilu was on the new life, Jao wasn't. Kakabaria was.
Adi Jr.
Adi Jr., Baba's younger brother, who in his later years was in London. Okay, there's Gustaji.
Baba.
And there's Baba. And that's Sidhu. Did any of you meet Sidhu?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was there in the early years. He didn't speak any English at all. There's Ramju.
Saba, Kobo.
Oh, Sabas Kokwal, okay. Is that Sabas Kokwal?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Here's Baba Das. He's the one who looked like that. Baba never made him get his haircut. Okay, and this is the rest of the photo. Pendu. This is his sailor. Yeah. Kodu was his actual name. He was from quite early, from, I think, Munzalini. You recognize that fella? Duncan, yeah, William Duncan. So Pendu was a new life companion, and Duncan was. Padre was not. No, who is that?
Probably Mama Murley's dad.
Oh yes, this is Murli's father. Yeah, so he was a very early disciple, and I think this is Savak. No.
Datu.
Datu.
Meherana.
Oh yes, Dr. He was from early, and I think he was in the Meherashram among the boys, and he took over Adi's office when Adi went in the new life. So the first, well, actually there were hardly any circulars went out at that time, but he was involved in the process of sending out circulars. Later in the new life, Baba, on 2 episodes, got some of his old life followers who were, in financial difficulties, and gave them money. With the idea, charity begins at home, and he was one of them, actually. Here's Dr. Ghani.
Nariman.
Who is that?
Nariman.
Oh, that's Nariman. It's a little hard to see. Oh, yeah, and this is Sarosh, Mirji. This is Saab. Yeah, there he is. And Sabak Kutwal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Saba Demani.
Sabak, Damani. He was, anyway, he was a long-time disciple of Baba. Dr. Falukar, he was another early one. Here's Ali Akbar Shakur Zaman, Alaba. You know, him, I always forget who this is.
Bhau Tamba.
Okay. And this is Vishnu. He was another New Life companion. So was Alaba. Gani was, and Duncan and Hindu. So those are the faces of some of the New Life companions. Not all are there, but most are there.
Does not the name Das mean servant of or devotee to
Slave, literally.
slaves? Okay, so Baba Das,
Slave of Baba.
yeah, was he named Baba Das before he
Yeah.
came to Baba, or?
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, Baba is a common title in
Right.
India, so he could have gotten that name otherwise. But he might have gotten that nickname. I don't know what his actual name is. Tell the truth.
Now, Hindu was big, wasn't he? Is he sitting down or he just looks small there? I don't know.
Where's Pindu? Oh, by the way, here's Adi. Did we get him? No.
He's on the one on the right there, right there. And
Yeah.
he looks short. I just thought
Yeah.
he was a huge guy.
He's
Yeah.
not standing on the bench.
Yeah, maybe
they're
they're on it.
standing on the
Yeah,
bench
yeah.
and he's not. Okay,
Yeah.
he said he's got it. Thanks.
Yeah.
It was like,
No,
no.
no, he's not standing on the
Yeah,
bench.
okay, that's it. Okay, thank you.
So Pindu was a nickname. His actual name was Asfendiyar. That's a common Persian name, like Asfendiyar Vasali. He was an Irani of Iranian ancestry, like Baba himself. So these are some of the characters, and here's what they are allowed to bring. So, I mean, it's like, I don't know, I'm just struck by the extent of the detail. You know, every little thing is mentioned. Two pajamas, one cotton shirt, 3 pairs of socks, 2 pairs of langotis or underwear, 4 handkerchiefs, 1 bath towel, face towel, 1 mug, 1 tali platter, 2 spoons, not 3, 2, 1 toothbrush tube and 1 toothbrush. So what happens when your tube gets used up? Do you just sort of, did you get a new one? Yeah. 1 comb and 1 brush, 1 hand mirror, 1 shaving kit, 2 bars of soap. I mean, it's down to like the last little detail.
So the next time you teach this, you know what to require.
Well, maybe not 5.
That's right.
Bring only this.
You can only bring this, yeah. I think they could put it in a steel cabinet, so you could bring that also, put all the stuff in, yeah.
1 toothpick and 1 watch? Why would they be listed on the same line?
Yeah, no, that is odd.
Is that because you're intending to pick time?
No, you use your toothpick at a certain hour.
What I did, this was
Very good for
it was
that.
on
Why
the
don't watch when
and it was on your watch chain.
You need, sometimes you need extra.
1 good durable walking stick, you couldn't even bring 2. By the way, there was Minu Karash was really heartbroken at not being allowed to come. So he did, before they took off, he gave his walking stick to Ghani, and Ghani agreed to take that. And when Ghani left Baba's, joined Plan 1C in January 50, as he was going, Baba suddenly went and grabbed his walking stick. So Minu was very greatly touched when he heard that. All these little details that come up.
One towel, so they each had a towel.
Yeah.
But, Ward, do you think that, do you think that you were required to bring all that? Whether you wanted it or not?
Well, yeah,
Does
Most
it
of
say?
Let me see.
But it was in order.
That could be taken.
some things could be taken, like, you know, if you use the
Things
word.
that could be
Yeah.
taken, that's how it's put here.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I would guess this was the maximum list, but you have to see if some of the original documents say. So they all had to arrive at Mariposa between October 1st and October 5th. And the night before they set out, there was a proposal to have a big meal at Mariposa. So that happened. Actually, somebody said, well, we should have meat. And I think it was Dr. Felkar protested, said meat has never been eaten at Mandalay Hall. And Gandhi said, well, it's 49-1, all the rest of you are for it. All the rest are for it. And Baba said, there's no democracy in spirituality. If one person, so it's a big disagreement about it. So they wanted, you could eat meat somewhere else, but not inside Mandalay Hall. So all these things happened right before. And the other thing, if we had more time, we could read, I wanted a poetic end, look at the Song of the New Life. But there was this poem that Ghani wrote, you mentioned it yesterday. So, let's see. Okay, the weeks leading up to the start of the new life. Okay. Disturbed by Baba's apparent disinterest, Ghani wrote a ghazal in Urdu full of complaints entitled A Jeremiah to Saki. That's a word, Jeremiah, named after the famous prophet who kept warning the Jews of impending disaster, all of which came to happen because of their misbehavior and God's displeasure. So, and read it out to him with this characteristic passion. In it, Ghani gave a flavor of his early days with Baba all the way up to the present. And it's actually a really accomplished poem, and it seems like it's criticizing Baba, but it's actually praising him. He's saying, you know, in the early days, you were just so bewitching and beguiling. We were completely intoxicated and drawn in. But then you didn't keep any of your promises, and now you're dissolving everything, destroying everything, and we're stuck with it all. So here are a couple of, tonight members of the tavern are meeting in a session. Tonight, if permitted, I wish to unburden my heart. A couple of these stanzas. Hereafter, the love and the lover and this divine night will only be a dream. O Saki, where is that promised brew that shatters the most inveterate ego? O promise breaker, he's calling him a promise breaker. Then farther down, he's, we know your taverns eternally. Okay, no sooner the lamp was lit, the moths gathered around. He's talking about when Baba first began to attract his people. The eyesight of their reason God blinded. These daredevils are neither mad nor in their senses, etc. O Saki. You know what a Saki is?
Wine for.
Yeah. It's part of the Sufi imagery of the tavern. You know, in Islam, wine is against the law, actually. It's prohibited. So in Sufi poetry, it gets used as a metaphor for the, what do you say, not quite illicit, but convention-breaking character of the real search for God, where you go beyond the orthodoxy. So you get drunk on wine. Hafiz's poetry has this. So the Saki is the one who gives the wine. Do you recall to mind the plethora of promises? We were caught just on the threshold of our lives. Your advent confronted us with a new world altogether. You were so absolutely bewitching and beguiling. Osaki, do you remember our early enthusiasm and fervor? That we became indifferent to the world and its demands. Okay. Osaki, do you remember the opening session of the tavern in Manzuli Mim, when the mysteries of the tavern began to leak out, making all concerned feel dazzled, dazed, and intoxicated. And also the disclosures regarding the circle and its members. You know, back in those days, so many of his discourses were on the matter of the circle. And Baba would say, well, some of you are in my circle and some of you aren't, and I'm not going to tell you who's who. And he did the same thing to the Westerners, as a matter of fact. So thus you have the circle this and the circle that. And after a while, they just got so sick of the whole circle thing, because it, never went anywhere.
And Baba spent time early on as in a relative's toddy shop, right? As a server.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. He actually did do that himself, you could say. They wouldn't have called him a Saki in that context, but it's that role. You know. So here he says, "Oh Saki, do you remember the postponement of your promises to June and September?" He's referring to something that I don't know exactly what he's referring to, probably Manzuli Mim times. "We often recall such incidents for amusement. You began to evolve subterfuges and excuses. There is no one to beat you at this game. When the stock of the name of God began to have a cold reception in the market of love, you at once warmed us up by dangling Maya in one form or another before our face." Like you'd say, next Saturday we'll have a nice meal, you know. Or maybe we'll go on an outing to such and such a place. So when the name of God, and nobody believed that they were going to get anything spiritually, realization and all of that. I mean, Gandhi is being very, cute, and he understood Baba's play very well. And then, let's see, I mean, this whole poem is really a wonderful poem.
And how did Gandhi present this? Before the whole assembly, or?
I presume he probably read it out, yeah. So, in the Urdu, this is of course in Urdu, yeah. "It seems the present game implies perfect destruction." He's talking about the announcement of a new life, which is about to start. Okay, it's the beginning and the end. "The school of love for years underwent a routine course. What seized you to change so suddenly the curriculum so drastically?" He's talking about the new life, right? The announcement of it. "Mere words can never remove the age-old rust of temperament and nature, etc. Would it be too much to wish if you had ordered an exemption and an eternal vacation?" "For years we were praying for the safety of the tavern, God. In the tavern we prayed for the long life of the Saki, the master. The latest decree, however, enjoins upon us to forget both the tavern and the Saki. That is, no master, no disciple, and, no God realization either. We pray to Almighty God for help observe the conditions, but God is no longer the goal. Now there is no go for us but to pray for the safety of the wine glass, the individual self. You and you alone are responsible for God. That's all that's left. The whole, program, Sufi program has been destroyed. The ship, God, and the captain, master, have both become strangers. Come to your senses, O traveler. Who remains now to care for you?" When you read that as conditions, doesn't it sound a bit like that? If you obey Baba and get sent to prison, well, you're responsible for it. So who's gonna look after you? Yeah. Finish up this rigmarole once if you're solid, etc., etc. If the beloved is determined to ride the clouds of self-glorification, the lover also should reply by riding the sure steed of surrender and resignation. So he says, okay, I'll resign to it, I'll do the program. He's actually a great lover of Meherana. I probably told you when I first asked Erich what Ghani was like, way back in the 70s. And he told a lot of funny stories about Ghani. In fact, the first thing he said was Ghani was the very living personification of everything that we shouldn't be. But after a bunch of stories, Erich said, this was all on the surface. He was a priceless jewel. That's actually the truth of him. But then Baba got Kotzeb to compose a ghazal as if he himself were giving the reply to Ghani. So Kotzeb absolutely trashes Ghani. So inmates of the, I'll just read little snippets, but do you know whose is the wailing note today? The voice evidently is one of our chronic beneficiaries, etc. How dare he complain about the tyranny of the sake? Can you truly say that the wine eternal has not benefited him at all? How senseless and meaningless is his Jeremiah? What mocking and hypocrisy, this bewailing and moaning. Let Munsa say, is this outburst out of tune? And if at all, was there any occasion for it today? So he really goes after him. And he responds to a lot of the particular points that Ghani, brought up. So you can get the sense of the fun of this whole thing. Ghani was actually saying what a lot of them had experienced. Baba had given, God realization, and some of you are in my circle, and the intoxication of love, and they wound up going through every kind of hardship, and now he's dissolving the whole program. But Kotzeb absolutely trashes him, and in the same spirit. You see, these guys are friends, they were close friends. And a little follow-up on this is that in 1950, at the end of the year, Baba at that time was in Mahabaleshwar, up in the mountains, right, in Florence Hall, and he invited Madhusudan and Pratapahir and their whole bhajan group, bhajan mandali they were called. They're already showing great talent in that. They just heard of Baba the year before. He invited them to come up to Florence Hall to sing for him, Baba. And who was it? Might be Gadakar. One of them, Mandali, was allowed to come, but Ghani was not allowed. Ghani at that time was back in Pune. And of course, Kotzeb was an old life Nowala. So they couldn't come, and they couldn't even be referred to because no references to the old life. And the day before Madhusudan party left from Pune, Kotzeb died, actually. And he had written a ghazal very shortly before this, which Madhusudan party had learned to sing. And Ghani had also. So when Ghani's is a touching ghazal, it's natural to talk about his humorous things, but he could write really accomplished, moving ghazals, and this is one. And they sang it out before Baba, but they couldn't say who wrote it. But Baba listened, and he said, Big Head. That was his nickname for Ghani. And when they were singing out Kotzeb's ghazal, I think Baba stopped it at one point, and there was a silence, and Baba said, he has come to me. So these two, and Ghani died the next year, in 1951, during the New Life. So there's a little follow-up to this Battle of the Bards that happened right before the beginning of the new life.
One of Gandhi's complaints in the passage that you read
Yeah,
reflected how the responsibility was on the tavern goers and not on
God or the
the
master.
wine shop proprietor. Harkening back to that list of allowed
Hmm.
provisions, who provided that? Since these companions were all dependent and long-serving of Baba,
Hmm.
where did the resource come from for them to provide their longis and their blankets and their toothbrush and tube? And
Well, they would have provided that themselves. This is before the new life began.
out of their own pocket.
Yeah.
And where did that resource come from if they were devotees of Baba?
Well, I mean, a lot of them had lives in the world. I mean, what we're talking about is not very expensive. They could all manage that. It wasn't an issue. And for people living with Baba like Erich or Kaka, I don't know, maybe out of the ashram fund, I don't think that was a big deal. You can see a blanket, 2 lungis, toothbrush, toothpick. I think that could be managed. I don't know.
Those things they might have had at home already.
They probably would have, yeah. Or they might have had to pick up a few of the things, but it wouldn't be an issue. So in the new life, this is the trek, the first part of it. They left from Ahmednagar. That's actually, I'll show, there's a photo here of the place that began. Here's Meherana. But they went on this road as far as Shirur, which is about here. So if you're traveling by car to Ahmednagar, you'd go through Shirur. And then they took a bus to Pune down to Belgaum. So that Hyderabad is that way, Bombay is over this way. So this is how it began. And this is the place, the very spot. The new life began. You can go here still. This is the railway station in Ahmednagar. And this is the level crossing. You know what a level crossing is? Railway tracks. It'll be something where they build up concrete and a car can drive over it. So the new life started there. Early in the morning, I don't know, 4 in the morning on October 16th. And as it turned out, it was raining that day. It's a little late for the monsoon, but not unprecedented. So they wound up traveling by car to their first stop, and they spent an extra day there. And the day after that, they started walking. This is where they spent that first night, Supa. Do you know what a duck bungalow? That's going to come up a lot in the new life. These are government rest houses where people can stay. And if government officials need it, they get priority. Otherwise, it's available for general use. So quite a lot, they stayed in duck bungalows.
Do those still exist?
Yeah, I think they do. Yeah. They have them in like Happy Valley. I think they have a duck bungalow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're magnificent.
Yeah.
Better than Vilu's villa.
Yeah, some of them are nice. These are pretty, primitive. They drew water from this well that first night. And then the next day, they started off walking. And so they covered 2 days walking because it was raining. And the night they had slated for that was in an open field, but in the rain that would be good. So they walked 15 or 20 miles to Shirur. And In it, Ghani actually had a mild heart attack toward the end of it. And he wound up having that problem later on in the new life. And he died actually in the new life in August of 1951. So he was one of the people with poor health. He was on the older side of things. Kaka also started having health problems. He wound up living all the way until 1969. But here's, from now on, this is a comment, this is while they were traveling at night. Baba made some of these comments. So, from now on, everything must be open, clear, and truthful. Nothing is secret, and nothing should be hidden. All are equal. All should treat and accommodate each other equally. Everyone should try to be 100% honest. And whatever the circumstances or consequences, all should speak the truth. The most important thing to remember in all circumstances is to remain cheerful and happy. And when it comes down to it, that seems to have been the real key to the new life. Baba said later on, you have to be a master of your face.
Yeah.
You were not prohibited from having angry thoughts or bad thoughts of all types. He never expected that, but no expression of them. Occasionally, disappointment, disgust, or discontent might assail you, but you should try not to show it on your face. Anger may overpower one, but it should not be expressed. So, and here's another comment from during their travel. We are all on equal footing from now on in the new life. For us all henceforth, there is no spirituality, no master, no disciple. This is, again, one of these paradoxes, because he was a master in the sense of obedience. But it seems to me he wasn't in any other respect. All the paraphernalia that comes with the master's role of obeisance and coconuts and flowers and the kind of language. You see, in America we don't have this, so it wouldn't register with us. But in India there's all these trappings, how you approach a master and the language you use. And my understanding is all of that was gone. You had to be respectful and everything, but the master-disciple stuff was out the window, except with respect to obedience. Yeah.
It seems like Baba had already thrown away a lot of those trappings. But then also they said that they felt freer. So I'm thinking that maybe some of the idea of freer was this only that, that Baba wasn't involved in quite every little thing as much as it was less, it was occasionally something specific order kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know, they felt freer, so
Yeah, they did.
there was something to that.
Maybe in the habits of relating to people, maybe a lot of those habits were changed. See, I couldn't say exactly what they are, but like if you're meeting a guru, when you leave the room, you walk backwards like this, but I imagine that, I'm just making this up, but a lot of little things like that done away with. You're supposed to treat him like another ordinary companion. Yeah.
So is that how the Mongoli behaved with Baba prior to the new life? Did they walk backwards out of the room?
No, I don't think they would have.
Yeah, I hadn't pictured that.
No, not to, I think as you're saying, a lot of that was already done away with. But it seems like this was much more thoroughgoing. All of the claptrap of religiosity and the stuff associated with spirituality, Baba wanted to get rid of, looks like. Probably if we had people like Vishnu here, he could really spell, because he was a Hindu, and he could really have spelled it out a lot more about how different it was.
So Bob was more of a commander of a company than a master of
Yeah.
ashram.
Yeah, maybe it would be like that. But anything that he asked for had instantaneously to be obeyed. And there was no doubt about that.
So he retained preeminence as
There.
the alpha
Right.
in the group.
The elder brother, sometimes they would refer to him that way, which in India, that has a certain resonance where it's going to be. No master, no disciple, no miracles, no key-turning business, no hopes, no thoughts of benefit or privation. Look upon Baba as a friend who will help and advise you till the end of December. Baba was promising that, the training period, he would help people to learn how to live the new life. At that point, the help was ended.
What is a key turning business?
Yeah, well, I know it came up a lot in the must work. Like if they would, I think with Karan Baba, for example, in Calcutta, Kakabaria had to get him, 6 play must, and a dangerous guy. You know, he had these big long nails and he could really savage you physically, you know. It's not someone you would mess with. And Kaka had to get him into a taxi, onto a train, and to take him all the way down to where the ashram was. I think it was Meherana at that time. Like an impossible job with someone like this. These are majestic characters, greatly respected. He lived in a slum and on the street, but he was greatly revered where he was. How do you get him to come? Well, Kaka, I forget what he did. He might have gotten him to change his clothes somehow, which is hard enough already, and got him to stand up and get into a taxi. And so they felt Baba would turn the key or they never could have done it. So many situations people would be in a fix. Later on, Kiki Nalavala had it related in an episode where he was driving up and, you know, lived on the edge of the Himalayas on some road, and something in his car failed, and his car with a whole car full of people was going off a cliff. They all would have died. And suddenly it stopped right on the brink of it. And he said that was Baba's grace. That'd be like a key turning thing. And Baba said, I had nothing to do with it. Don't attribute these things to me. So they had to give up on that idea that if they were in a fix, Baba was going to turn a key. Because that had been, you know, they had thought that way, and I'm sure it was happening. By word and deed, you should, in all faith and sincerely and seriously, give the impression, is there an avoid there? Avoid giving the impression Baba is God, Master, Sadguru, or the Avatar. I will be master in one respect only, in demanding implicit obedience. In all other respects, treat Baba as a friend. You should be quite free in your behavior toward me, but treatment should not smack of rudeness or impudence. Barring this, practice humor, be joyful, and crack jokes. You are free to do this, nothing will please me more. To carry you safely through with me, the most important thing is not to be moody. That seems like if there's one single thing in the new life, it was that. Always try to be happy and cheerful. In fact, they would often say Baba himself would be very, very happy and cheerful in the new life. Many times they commented on that. He was trying to do it himself. If at times your mood is spoiled or you become angry, try never to express it directly or indirectly. All this is the play of mind. And with a little conscientious effort, the mind can be made to adapt itself. So here's a question for all of you. One of the big themes, I'm going to be critical of Meher Baba. imposter here, came in, I think he's a phony. So Baba said helplessness and hopelessness. In other words, they're all depressed. And the enjoyment of suffering, that's masochism. He was advocating depression and masochism. Are there any defenders of the new life here? Well, why not?
What's the difference between masochism and enjoying your suffering?
Yeah.
You're ahead, the way you see
You
it.
want to say something, Joseph?
It could be the development of Stoicism.
Uh-huh. A forbearance and endurance of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you're enjoying suffering, then actually your mood is cheerful
Yeah.
while you're suffering, whereas in the other case, you're not.
Masochism, you're not actually enjoying it.
Not at all.
You're torturing yourself to display something or whatever the motivation is. It's not actively enjoying it. Now, is it? Are there any good masochists here who can give an account of it?
Only on rare occasion.
Only on rare occasions.
Well,
I suppose
think
we all-
Bill Murray in Little Shop of Horrors, where he's allowing Steve Martin to drill his teeth and he's enjoying it.
So was that the enjoyment of suffering or was that masochism?
That's masochism.
What about hopelessness? I mean, in our world today, to be hopeless is just a totally negative thing. What's wrong with hope?
Hope leads to desire.
Huh?
Hope embellishes desire.
It is, it's based on desire.
So-
And how about past, present, and future? How does hope tie itself into that spectrum? When is hope going to be fulfilled?
In the future.
In the future. And you're not in the new life, you're living right now. So you're expecting something in the future that will alleviate the suffering of the present. So you're not enjoying your suffering and you're hoping, the cavalry will come in to rescue you. How about helplessness? How about that?
Same thing, so what?
Same thing. Why do I need help? Because I'm looking toward the future to answer the problems of the present. So helplessness is not meaning I'm helpless hoping someone is going to rescue me. I am totally accepting the state of being absolutely helpless with no expectation of anything.
And yet, there is a resistance by virtue of the cheerful refusal to be moody about that circumstance that denies the experience, so that it's like life slips without attachment, without recognition of the adversity.
So do you think that's violating new life conditions somehow?
That is the new life condition, is it not? That-
Of cheerfulness? Yeah.
Well,
Not being,
not Bukovar, of not wallowing in the mud
Yeah.
of the journey.
Yeah, so like if the enjoyment of suffering, if you're in a state of helplessness, you enjoy it and are cheerful as an expression of your enjoyment of the suffering. So it's really something I haven't, in my readings and spiritual literature, Buddhism seems to have a lot to do with the new life on the level of its renunciation. That's right there. New life is about renunciation. But I would have a hard time finding such a stark expression of these themes, where they actually, helplessness and hopelessness are ideals, and the enjoyment of suffering is so a more extreme state amplification of renunciation, where you actively embrace it.
Are you aware of any textual advice to wannabe sannyasi?
I
Because
mean, I've read a little bit. Maybe these themes come up. I couldn't say for sure. Has anyone else ever go? We should have Tony Foley here in a Hare Krishna. He came to some of these. And where they practice these things. Back in the old days, some of you may know Mark Palmer.
Yeah.
So he came up with a t-shirt for sale, Helpless and Hopeless. And I was rather tickled by it, and I wore it in public once. No, I didn't do it a second time. People were really laughing at me. I guess I should have.
Also looks like
You should
a
enjoy
I should have enjoyed it.
But you are now.
I do enjoy it in retrospect.
But you know, the monastics during the medieval period were engaged in the same or similar practice, were they
Yeah.
not? Poverty,
Yeah, we should.
chastity, and
No.
obedience,
No.
and hard labor, if you follow the rule
Yeah.
of Benedict.
So there is a lot in common with the New Life and the renunciatory aspects of actually all the religions, to tell the truth. But Buddhism and Hinduism are very much there. Of course, in Christianity, it also had it with monasticism and the mendicant movement in the 12th, 13th centuries. So the first training period began in Belgaum, and you've seen where Belgaum is. It's about 450 miles south of Ahmednagar. It's down in Karnataka. The language there is Kannada with a lot of Marathi, and they had a place through Baba's disciple Vishnu. It was friends and relatives of his who made this spot, and it was 24 acres. And it was just pouring rain the whole time that they were there, or at first, anyway. And the places, their accommodations were not in good repair, so the floor was swimming with water. And, it was infested with mice and rats, and mosquitoes were everywhere. So they had a good initiation into the,
Helpless and hopeless.
yeah, that's right.
And being cheerful.
Being cheerful through it all. And so right off the bat, Baba began to assign them different jobs, and cooking, and also drawing water from the well was a bit of an issue because the well was several hundred yards away. So after a bucket, they would have to carry the bucket all the way to where they were staying, and I think they needed a good bit of water, so it was an arduous experience for them. Another thing is, these most of these disciples weren't from the servant class, the laborer caste in India. Most of them had been, middle class, fairly prosperous people, so this wasn't in their habits to do this kind of work of coolies. And Baba even had Mara, sweeping floors and stuff, which she had not done before. So part of it is it was new to them, a lot of this experience. Here he makes this comment about it. Up to now, this is in Belgaum now, it can be said that the life is one of hardship and suffering, which none can be said to enjoy. The life will be still more miserable in 1950, but you will enjoy this misery. This enjoyment of misery will in itself constitute a challenge to God. I cannot say anything more now, and truly speaking, nothing is clear and definite. I have only a hazy picture of the life to come. Think what you may.
So what does that challenge to God mean?
What do you think? I wonder too. Why is that a challenge to God? The enjoyment of misery is a challenge to God? What do you think, Susie?
Calls to mind.
Yeah,
Um,
go ahead, yeah.
Okay, I'll just.
Oh, is it?
It's okay.
Yeah, it's on.
Challenge to God. Well, that is so interesting. How to even frame that or think of it is interesting. The
Yeah.
enjoyment of misery will in itself constitute a challenge to God, because it seems like most patterning of humans is to pray out to God during moments of suffering,
Yeah,
and to call out to God relentlessly, ceaselessly.
right,
So if there's no calling out to God, then what?
yeah. When you're calling out to God, you're asking for help,
For help.
right? But this is not it, you're helpless, you're not.
You're
asking-
helpless, you're not asking for help, you're not even seeking God, you're just in
Right.
it,
Yeah,
with God.
and apparently God witnesses it,
Yeah.
and it's a challenge to him.
What's wrong? Yeah, what's wrong with these people? Why aren't they calling out to me?
Yeah,
They're just suffering.
you're
Yeah.
just suffering.
And
And,
the passionate one,
yeah,
which is in nature of God,
right,
is rendered useless, really.
right. So I have to show that I'm really compassionate, being God here.
Yeah,
It's a challenge to my compassion. This person is not asking for anything,
right,
but they
God's
need it.
active
Yeah.
going.
What do you think, Melissa? Is that any kind of an
That makes
answer?
some help, yeah, thanks.
No, it's a good question. Why is it a challenge to God?
It challenges duality too, supposed world we live in. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's just obliterates duality, which is an interesting situation in our illusory world.
you know, it reminds me of a quote we read yesterday where Baba said, I'm going to be nothing, callous, I forget the second word, and naked. And then he quotes a line, even God is afraid of the naked. What does nakedness mean?
It's nothingness, really. There's no need, there's no want, there's no
Yeah.
void to be filled or answered by an entity outside of oneself.
Yeah, you have nothing.
Nothing, and
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah. Why would God be afraid of that? I don't quite know myself.
Then God is no longer needed.
Right,
You're perfect.
God, he doesn't even need me.
Right.
They're not calling out for help, and they don't need me. Yeah. So it's an interesting relationship to God, is it not?
Yeah.
But God is certainly in the picture in both of these things. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
in that, I was just thinking that supposedly misery is a teacher, where you learn, you work out your sense areas and you improve yourself and all this.
Yeah.
So if you're going to enjoy the misery,
Yeah.
that's a challenge. Now, how is God going to help you if you're
Right.
not going to repent?
Yeah.
Maybe repentance isn't in this, but at least think, I shouldn't have done that or something. So now that's
Right.
a challenge to God. So
Right.
now he has to just help you with what? Love?
Right. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, how can he help you if you're enjoying your suffering? He can't take away your suffering because you're enjoying it. So what use is he? Hey, you've made me useless. It's interesting. It's an interesting dynamic of the God to human relationship, is it not? Now here's a very interesting passage. I hope I can quickly find it. Is that Belgaum still? I can't quite see it running there.
Yes.
Yes.
Life in Benares.
No, that's later.
Yeah.
There was a very interesting discussion, here we go, where they're asking Baba in Belgaum was open to their time. Let's see, where is it? Okay, I'll come back to this one, but he talks about his idea of what the new life is going to be and the picture he had of it. Okay, here it is, yeah. Can you give us a tangible idea of the meaning of this new life and what form it will really take? I think it was Ghani, Erich, and a couple of the others talking with Baba at Belgaum in this place that's, letting in the rain and the rats and the mosquitoes. Baba said, I have a very hazy picture of the new life before my mind's eye. I do not know the details myself. However, imagine you are going to meet a beautiful woman, and if the meeting you are so eager about materializes, it will be your first experience. Now, he's not saying experience what, I don't know, is it spending the night with her, or is it a beautiful meeting? It will be impossible to ascertain or define beforehand what shape things will take and how matters will work out. This is the new life I see before you and me. Now that is as surprising a picture. I mean, it makes the new life something wonderfully alluring and attractive and romantic and, like that. Now, that is nothing like the sort of all these conditions which sound harsh and hard. Isn't that a strange image? What do you think, Melinda? Do you?
Well, there's more than. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was thinking a beautiful woman is more than just external.
Right. For sure.
So that's what I was thinking about.
So it's a vision of beauty and wondrous enjoyment, but not it's not the gross thing he's talking about at all. That definitely seems to be the case. But it's a most surprising picture of what the new life is going to be, of what he envisions. But he says he himself doesn't know exactly how it's going to play out. It's just a hazy picture. Because he's just an ordinary man, he doesn't know.
What, are we going to take a short break?
Yeah, maybe this would be a good moment to do it. Okay, J-Bubba. I want to be sure before, afterwards we go. Yeah.
It has the there is what Baba mentioned about hopelessness and helplessness.
Yeah, I want to come to that in just a second.
Figured you were leaving.
Yeah, no, it's very good. I think that's the one I was just looking at. But I wrote these words up here, Satyanashi, helplessness and hopelessness, and the enjoyment of suffering. So those are three themes that came up, especially in the Belgaum period. But here's Satyanashi, that word. So in the evening, the word Satyanashi, which Baba would often use in reference to the new life, provoked a discussion. The companions did not like the word. We were in Maraga, Meherana and Rishika, some of you may know, you know them, Fred.
Yeah.
Were there, we were talking about it. It means catastrophic ruin or utter destruction or something like that. So they didn't like the word. The use of alternate words was suggested by Dr. Ghani and others, such as renunciation, kanakarabi, complete ruination, barbadi. You think that's not bad, these words, right?
Body sounds.
Destruction.
This sounds as bad as the other one.
Yeah. Fakara, asceticism, and fakiri, like a fakir, poverty of dervishes. And here's what Baba said. Baba did not accept any of them. These terms carry a spiritual meaning, and our life has nothing to do with spirituality. It's this theme again. There is a world of difference between renunciation and satyanashi. renunciation can be practiced by anyone and progress can be made, but it has a distinct quality and degree relating to the various types of renunciation. But satyanashi cannot be practiced. It is not of anyone's desiring. It comes and cannot be resisted. It's like it overpowers you. You know, like a tsunami, or a landslide, or a plane crash. It's like that. And so there's a qualitative distinction that he was bringing up between. This says a lot about the new life. And let's see. Is this what you meant, Brian? Yeah. Right here. You want to read it? Feel like reading some of it out? Let's see.
Hopelessness.
Yeah, so there are a lot of questions coming up from the local people who are wanting to know, what are you people doing? So some of this discussion came out of that. I think from here, that afternoon.
That afternoon, Baba told the companions the following to help them deal with visitors. Hopelessness means renunciation of all hopes. Aimlessness means renunciation of all aims. Helplessness means renunciation of all help. No master, no disciples means renunciation of spirituality. And the new life I have in mind eventually means absolute renunciation. Therefore, if anyone asks what this new life is, say it is absolute and complete renunciation. If they ask renunciation of what, then say of everything, aims, hopes, help, and even life itself. Now remember, there will be occasions when people will ask all sorts of questions, and such occasions will often arise. Donkin should be the one to go and meet the Westerners, and either Ghani, Adi, Nilu, Erich, Pendu, or Vishnu should explain matters to Indian questioners. The rest of the companions, if asked, should refer the questions to the above-named companions. If someone asks why Meher Baba still observes silence, you should say it is his personal and individual wish.
Talk about a non-answer. You want to jump down to here?
Okay, if asked about the new life, list general but important things such as no darshan, no blessing, no grace among the negative things, and begging, Langoti life, and labor among the positive things.
So those are the
Positives.
Begging, Langoti, right?
If asked what Baba does, say he works and begs like any of us. If other details are asked, tell them to read the new phase booklet available from the Ahmednagar office. You should treat the questioners with all kindness and humility. Under no circumstances should you get upset over the questions and become angry, whatever the questions, proper, improper, or irritating.
Yeah. So this is how to deal with the public, and I think this, there's a couple, I think we read this. Did we or didn't we? No, we didn't. You want to read this? This is a translation of an Urdu.
At the top. We don't bother in the least with what others think of us. Our preoccupation and business is suffering and suffering alone. It is Allah for the Muslims, Ram for the Hindus, night is the same as day, and morning the same as evening. And the only cash found in Abdul Ghani's pockets is poverty.
So if the public asked you how to explain this, what would you say? The only cash in his pockets is poverty.
That's like
That's a
the
good
Kabir proposition, when the answer he gave Why does he live in the district of the throat cutters? He has nothing of value, so he's absolutely safe.
So try to rob Abdul Ghani. So it certainly means an empty pocket, and poverty is wealth. Poverty itself is wealth. How about this? Night is the same as day, and morning the same as evening. I'm not sure I even understand that myself.
We live in a diurnal
Yeah.
cycle, and to smash all precept, you have to go to the fundamental basics of just removing every cognitive structure, it would seem.
Did you want to say something, Barbara Jo?
Yeah, and Baba had them up in the middle of the night.
What's that?
Baba had them up in the middle of the night all the time, starting their day.
Yeah.
And he was just trying to say, yeah, don't get attached to whether it's day or night.
Yeah.
And that's like so,
Everything is reversed.
it's so counter to everything that's healthy. So it's really interesting. I mean, since I'm a healthcare practitioner, I think, yeah.
Yeah, did you want to say that?
Just, I think of it, it can also be interpreted as, because a lot of the theme is the kind of taking away the spirituality, the concepts of spirituality.
Yeah.
And that,
Yeah.
so it's all the same. And
Yeah.
life is all the same. There isn't like a spiritual life and non-spiritual life. It's kind of all that. Night is not the opposite. Night is the same as day. So it's all the
Yeah.
same. Morning's the same as evening. It's all
Yeah.
the same. We're taking away all the trappings of spirituality, and it's all the same. That's how I look at it.
And that phrase, trappings of spirituality, is a good one. It's impossible to believe that Baba was actually repudiating true spirituality. But all the ideas, the paraphernalia, the approaches and methods used, Baba wanted to clear that clutter so that the real pristine essence would emerge. Because that's how it seems to me.
You just agreed with the Worm King.
Oh my God.
And my argument of
I'll have to
yesterday,
repudiate my own words right away if I've done that.
because you just said, it's hard to believe that Baba renounced all spirituality.
That was the Worm King's position.
So
Yeah.
he was disallowing you to ask God for any help in a way,
Yeah.
but he was continually asking for forgiveness. I mean,
Yeah, that's true.
encouraging the disciples to be. So is forgiveness, it's still part of spirituality, but it's a part I don't understand at all. So
Yeah.
he's just keeping the things that are totally confusing me.
You're wondering why why you're supposed to ask for forgiveness all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was throughout the new life. That's there. These prayers to God usually begin that way. Have I gone past? Okay, I wanted to read this, but I think maybe let's read it anyway, because this is another. Sorry, I'm trying to find where Gandhi made that funny remark about what the new life is. No, it is there. Yes. Okay, so Gandhi made this comment. Baba repeatedly warned the companions to remain faithful to the oaths and conditions of the new life. One night, in the men's quarters, before going to sleep, Dr. Ghani remarked to the others, "The new life means this much: to do routine things at odd times, to create difficulties where none exist, and to disturb an otherwise smooth situation. All these things make up what we call the new life. Only Gandhi would have the gumption to say that. Baba overheard Gandhi and asked him what he meant. Gandhi replied with a smile, "Look at the unearthly time for our morning tea at 5 a.m. We have no religious devotions to perform so early in the morning, like arti, sandhya, puja, or namaz. And those are conventional prayers. And still at 4:30 we were required to crawl out of bed, shivering and coughing in this god-awful bitter cold." This is up in Benares. "And all that for the cold pleasure of a cup of tea, if available, and a chapati at 5 a.m. Really speaking, you should be called morning tea." Everyone had a hearty laugh, even Baba. But then he said, "Tomorrow tea should be at 4:45, 15 minutes early." But then look what followed up. The next morning, referring to Gandhi's remarks from the night before, Baba said, "I did not sleep at all the whole night. The spontaneous laughter at Gandhi's remark made me think whether Dr. Gandhi's remarks were to be taken humorously or seriously, considering the laughter they evoked. If Gandhi was joking, then I was at fault in not appreciating the humor. If he was serious, and if you thought that order for the morning tea was unnecessary and meaningless, then it meant not only a criticism, but a flagrant violation of the New Life conditions." So they were shocked to hear this, but Baba allowed them a chance. See, Baba's letting it all come out. Share their feelings about the previous night's incident. They all expressed that it was not easy to understand all of Baba's orders, but none of them regarded any of his orders as unnecessary or meaningless. This declaration immediately eased the situation, and Baba ended by treating it as a joke. So you see the usefulness of Gandhi. He would bring it out and the whole issue would come out and get aired and expressed. Because they were all, aware of this. Now, yesterday, another thing from the Belgaum place, actually Chris was talking about this, where Adi had an outburst, and Chris was saying that later years, Adi, do you remember this, Christy?
Yeah.
Mentioned?
He repented of it.
Of that outburst?
Yeah, very painful.
Yeah, and Baba had a private meeting with him.
Yeah.
But
Because
he
the
was,
concept was we were asking
You wanna use the mic?
how could, oh yeah, I have to use the mic. Okay.
yeah,
How could Adi leave one of his closest disciples? How could he leave the New Life later on? And Chris felt it was tied to this outburst.
Tied to what?
this
This
episode.
outburst we're talking about.
Yeah, and he was, had a lot of questions about Baba's motives, he said. And so anyway, I guess Mahdi had said he was thinking that Baba, the New Life, had a lot to do with Baba disencumbering himself from all the obligations and ties of every sort that had come with the New Life. And I think that could be part of the whole pattern that he wanted to change and be free from. But,
Didn't Baba early on with Adi and others kind of mention that there was spiritual gain to happen for them personally? And so that became less and less and less, and with the New Life it was wiped out. So I can see how, kind of Adi at some point had expectations about that. And, so that there was maybe frustration with that.
I wish we had him here to talk, because that's what Gandhi was talking about. Because Baba, dangled all this spiritual stuff in the early years. God realization, you're close to it. if you're in my circle, you're destined for God realization, you know, the intoxication of love. And they were experiencing a lot of those things. And gradually, that all got withdrawn. You know, that's what Gandhi's saying. He did it with the Westerners too, in a way. There's the famous episode where he was going to break his silence in the Hollywood Bowl. So a bunch of them bought God realization dresses. Because when you're God realized, you got to look the part. Especially at the Hollywood Bowl.
Do you know, for the later, he actually made them put them on. He had them bring them to India with him, Delia and Jean Adriel, all of them, Elizabeth, Marina, they had to all
Put it on there.
and a photo was taken. It's in Meherana hair. Yeah, of course they didn't do anything or go anywhere, but yeah, that they actually had their dresses shown.
I didn't know that. Oh, that's
It was
right.
for the Eastern women's enjoyment.
Yeah. I remember Jean Adriel saying how later on, you know, how they were all going to get God realization, and Bob said, "You believe the story like that?" And she was saying, "Well, you said it to us, you know." So this is, you know, the kind of illustration of quote-unquote spirituality, right? It's actually loaded up with hopes and expectations and desires. And so the new life was going to end all of that crap. That's not real spirituality at all. That's what I would think about a lot of this. Now, another really memorable episode in the Belgaum period was the thing involving Dalit Singh. Any of you remember the story? You want to relate some of this? Dalit Singh was a Sikh, of course. Sikhs is a religion descending from Guru Nanak, who's a perfect
I'll
master.
give it a try.
Yeah. We can chime in if we want.
So from the time that Dalit Singh agreed to be a Yeswala, his daughter decided plans were made for her to get married. That wasn't in the picture when he signed to be a Yeswala. And of course, it's a big deal in India, especially at that time. And he said, "I promised Bob I can't be there." And she...
Her wedding was supposed to be October 19th.
Yeah, 19th. And so he said, "I can't be there," and she renounced him painfully to him. "You're not my father, you don't care about me, and, da-da-da-da-da." And
You
then,
couldn't be my father if you couldn't
yeah,
even
you
3
can't.
days, for heaven's
Yeah.
sake.
And she really felt that. She was just, how can I get married without my father there? And so he had to deal with that. So one night with the caravan, the women were in the caravan, I don't remember where they were, but it was the day or something, and he was weeping. And
At night, when everyone was
asleep. So Bob happens to get up and say, "Eric, let's walk around and make sure everyone's okay." And they come upon Dalit, and he says, "What is this? What is this weeping?" And Dalit says, "I'm sorry, Bob, I couldn't help it. My daughter, has renounced me, and I want to be with you on the new life. I don't want to go back, but I just feel it, pretty much something like that." And Baba says, "You'll have to go." And he did. The next day, he was sent back.
They had a
And
big
then-
meeting the next day, and Baba brought it up and said, "You have to go
And
home."
then much more later on, the daughter from all of this group becomes deathly ill. And,
I think she had already become that by the time he got there.
right. She was in the, and he was, of course, a doctor. So that went on. And then she recovered by Baba's grace, he felt. But then he stayed at home, and of course, then Baba said, now you have to go and beg at a door but it wasn't, it was every so many times a year or
I
something.
think for a month out of the year, he had to go
Yeah.
begging.
And he did it in where he was, in Benares, and his family, they just got so fed up with him, they threw him out. And so the daughter was married, she recovered, but no matter, they said, you're out of here. And so he started wandering the roads, and one day Baba was up north.
It was Satara.
Satara, so it was Satara. And he said, go see who that man is out there. Of course, doctor, he has no idea that Baba's there. And go and see who it is, and Erich went out, and it was Singh, it was Dalit Singh. And so then Baba saw him, and he wept, and then he said, he sent him home again, right?
Yeah.
Now go back, even though they'd thrown him out. Now go back, and you don't have to do, like this and that. And he, later in his life, he came to be with Baba a lot.
Yeah, Baba said, one day I'll visit you at your home, and Baba did do that.
And the family welcomed him.
Yeah.
Go figure.
So there's a guy weeping in the middle of the night because of a family. You can see why he'd be weeping, and he's thrown out. So it was a dramatic illustration early on that, you'll get thrown out if you violate the conditions of the new life.
But there were two types of being thrown out. One, Baba's relationship remained, and the other, there was a severance entirely of all connection.
So this was the first category. In fact, Baba sent him home to lead the new life there. He wasn't even thrown out of the new life. But he couldn't stay with Baba. So this was a real dramatic illustration for everybody that Baba really meant it. They saw a case and example. As a matter of fact, a year later, at the Hyderabad meeting in 1951, June 1951, Dalit Singh was one of those invited. And they all had the opportunity to offer to join with Baba on Manonash. And Baba wound up going through the list and cut it down to only 6, and Dalit Singh was one of them. So he did rejoin Baba on the Manonash phase. He got sick after a month and had to go home again. But it was a very moving thing. I think Erich seemed to really like Dalit Singh, and I got the feeling that Baba did too. In fact, quite early, the very day those August 1949 meetings, after Baba had described the conditions, they were taking a break and they're out on the veranda. And Dalit Singh was next to Ghani, I guess they were chatting, and Ghani was smoking a beedi. And Baba came by and he took the beedi out of Ghani's mouth and put it into Dalit Singh's. And that's forbidden for Sikhs. And immediately, Dalit Singh began smoking a cigarette, and then Baba took it and gave it back to Ghani and said, "You passed the test." So immediate, because if your whole life you've been taught you can't do this, and all of a sudden you're hit with it, not to have a reaction is hard.
Is a BB just a plain tobacco cigarette, or is it something
it's
different?
clove. No, it's tobacco wrapped in a tobacco leaf. So,
Yeah.
It can have clove and other spices.
It's
That's
used,
not a narcotic, or
No, it's just tobacco.
it's tobacco.
I wasn't sure.
But you
Thank
can
you.
make them.
But they're very, very, very cheap. They're not wrapped in paper. They're just a little roll of tobacco. It costs practically nothing.
And they really stink.
Yeah.
Now, did you not comment that Dalit Singh had long hair? It was
No, that's Baba Das.
Baba Das.
Yeah. Dalit Singh was the one Sikh.
He must have been wearing a turban.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there are nice photos of him. It's from the, where is he? Here he is. This is him. He looks nice. Looks like a nice guy.
Now, the turban and the kirta blade and the steel bangle are ritual Sikh accoutrements.
So why didn't Baba have him rip off his turban and,
Yeah, because after the massacre, they were never to be without the means of making a weapon.
Well, that's something that in the New Life Baba certainly could have asked for. I've never heard that he did, but he could have, to violate the customs of their religion.
Well, with respect to the turban, the list of things to bring was either a hat or a turban.
Yeah,
So it
Yeah,
was
that's true.
explicitly allowed.
and in fact, they were, part of the costume was a green turban. I would imagine he probably was wearing a green turban. Although he wasn't there, actually all of this happened in Belgaum, and the Gypsy life began in Benares. So maybe that never came up with him. Or not. He was one of the oldest. I think he was 59 or something like that. I don't think there was anyone there over 60. Of course, people aged earlier back in those days, so that was found to be hard for some of these older people.
His face in that photograph is like the image on the shroud of Turin. With the mustache and the long nose.
So here is the Song of the New Life, which Baba had Dr. Ghani compose. By the way, this was just published by Shariar Nice, just the English version of it. He had him write it in when they were in Belgaum, and I think he had to finish it up on time. And if Ghani didn't finish it up, he would have to do 100 sit-ups. This is
That was a good incentive for him.
For Dr. Ghani, that was a very good incentive, Mr. Lacy. And actually, he wrote the first 9 verses, and then Baba brought it up. We'll come to it in a second. And if he didn't finish the last verse to his satisfaction, I think he was going to have to do another 100 sit-ups.
Oh my God.
So you get the sense of the humor. This is the original. This is my own scans, and they're kind of lousy scans, sorry, but this was printed up at the time. This is Ghani's own translation, and they printed up, I think, 1,000 copies and sent it all over the place. And it was written in, actually a good name for the language is Hindustani. We heard it the first morning, right? You guys remember that? And we played it. That was this. And it's, you could say Urdu, but it's like just Hindi with a lot of Urdu words in it. So I'd like to, we could read through some of this. And if you, any thoughts or comments?
Is that copy an original?
Yeah, this is an original, yeah. I just did it on my own scanner in India, so it's kind of a crummy. But
Is that part of your library or from the trust?
it's from my own library. I have one of these. But, okay, would somebody be willing to read out, say, the first 2 stanzas or so?
Sure, I'll do it.
Okay, yeah.
I can't help but think about that Jim Myers song. It's sort of, I feel like starting to sing it, but I won't do it.
We had the other, Suno Meher Baba ki da 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 da. So it's kind of the melody. Suno Meher Baba. Suno means listen, Meher Baba ki, of Meher Baba. And then the silent words will follow. Yeah.
Listen to the silent words of Meher Baba. The life story of all lovers of God is based on the practice of these words. If you are serious about living the new life, then wholeheartedly renounce this ephemeral existence. We have taken to this new life, to this life in which we rely only on God. In this, our will to do or die is strengthened by the oath taken. We are merrily singing the song of hopelessness. We are inviting all calamities and difficulties.
Okay. You know, I think they did have a chant, to do or to die. I forget exactly how it goes. Yeah, we forgot to, I didn't think to read out the oath which they had to take at the beginning of the new life. So here, okay, what are some of the characteristic new life themes you can see in this?
Oath to begin with.
The oath, yeah. Oath taken. Reliance on God. We haven't really brought that out, but that has been a good big theme, to depend on God only.
Yeah. And the will to do or die is strengthened by the oath taken.
Yeah, that's right. There is this foundation on the conditions and the oath to be faithful to the conditions. Baba, throughout the new life, kept going there. I bet, you know, if we're talking about the new life in the future, these conditions will be resurrected and be really, really central to it. There was a time when Bhau Kalchuri was trying to found spiritual training at the Trust on the new life. In fact, Meherana published that book of his. Yeah. And,
Master in Servitude.
Master in Servitude. There's a lot of that.
And so do you think this is for the future and it's not for now?
I guess I'm
I mean,
in a state of question just as you are. What do you think?
I think I can't understand at all how to possibly do it. And so I thought I was going to come here today to this thing and somebody was going to explain to me how to do this. I mean, I sort of knew that wasn't going to happen, but that was my hope, right? That was my, instead of being hopeless, I was hoping.
It's only Monday.
It's only Monday.
Oh, but by the end,
By the end of the week,
By the end
you'll
of the
be
week, we're
piece
going
of
to
cake.
have it, you know, or at least some of them. There'll be yes laws.
Yeah,
Because first, yeah, because
That's right.
I
You
do
can leave
really
your cars
believe it
behind
is.
and they'll be Meherana can sell them and get a lot of
We're
money.
doing it now.
Yeah.
Send a title.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, if the choice to be a yes walla would be a tough choice, man. Woo. Did you want to say something?
I think you'd have to be wearing Nikes and take on and just do it. I'm serious in that sense.
Yeah.
To merrily sing the song of hopelessness.
Just do it.
There isn't any other way. I don't think someone can describe.
Maybe that's the will to do or to die. So this is the hopelessness and helplessness, right? And we are inviting all calamities and difficulties. We're welcoming them. We're not just welcoming, inviting. Holy smokes. Yeah. Do you want to go on and read some more?
I mean, that's the next, inviting is like, bring it on. It's really
Yeah.
like you're saying,
Yeah.
just do it and bring it on.
Yeah.
No confusion in the mind now.
We're on the third
Oh.
one. We need her.
Too bad about the no confusion.
By the way, this is the guy who just wrote Jeremiah Saki. So he's changed his tune a lot in 2 weeks, hasn't he?
2 weeks later.
Yeah.
We neither wail over lost hopes nor complain about broken promises. We neither covet honor nor shun disgrace. Backbiting we know not, nor do we fear anyone. This is now the color of our new life. No confusion in the mind now, not any ties left. Pride, anger, lust, and greed we know not. We have no religion or care for physical and mental facts. The Sikh and the Brahmin typifying all castes and creeds, and now sailing in the same boat.
I strongly suspect these phrases were added by Ghani in the translation process because he figured English people wouldn't understand what it meant. So the Sheikh and the Brahmin, you see, that might not register with us so much, but in those days it certainly would. A Muslim master and the Hindu highest caste, in other words, crossing the divide of religions, he means to say there. Yeah, so this is all these, well, what do you say, praise and blame. You know, it's really hard to overcome the praise and blame thing. Don't you find that to be so? It's sort of like everybody criticizes you. No, I'm not to blame. Or, you know, oh, but I had a good reason for it. Or, you know, it seems so deeply rooted in human nature.
There's an expectation explicit in each of those.
There is, yeah.
Because there's a norm
Yeah,
for, if it's attained, you're praised,
right.
and if you fail, you're
Right.
blamed.
So there's a context of social expectations on basis of which that whole thing happens. It's one of the most deeply rooted of human desires, it seems to me. It's sort of hard to imagine getting, like if everybody in this room suddenly started absolutely castigating you and tearing you to pieces and did it for the rest of the week. And especially if they were attacking you on things that were real about you, right? Is there anybody who wouldn't be affected by that? But in the
Well,
new
Lord, I think you're doing a great job, so.
Okay.
It's a trap.
Why, thank you for being
I don't, because if Ward was an effective drill instructor, he would be tearing us down so that like a Marine DI at boot camp.
Okay, praise and blame. There we go.
Are you even cute?
That's right. I don't covet what Brian is saying or shun what the king of the worms is saying. I'm unaffected. Okay, no backbiting. The color. I wish we had right beside this a transliteration of the Marathi, see what the word would be. No confusion. Okay, these are basic desires. All of this has to be rejected. Okay, anyone else feel like reading a couple of verses of this? Maybe another two? Anyone in the mood for it?
Sure.
Yeah. Fred? Yeah. Oh. Okay, we're at number 5.
There is no small or great now for us all. The questions of disciple, master, or godhood no longer arise. Brotherliness or fellow feeling is the link that exists. And this contributes to our present enjoyment of suffering. This world or the next, heaven or hell, we no longer care about. Shaktis and cities, occultism and miracles we no longer think of. All these false impressions, thoughts for us, have been purged from the mind. What has value and importance for us now is to live in the active present.
Okay, does anything strike you, anything leap out to you from these? I mean, there's so much we could say.
The active present.
Yeah, that's a big one, isn't it? You know, if I were to say about the new life, some of the dominant themes, one would be cheerfulness, but another big one is living in the present. And it's just a platitude now, oh, live in the now, which people say, but to do it is another thing. But it seems like living in the present really was central to the new life.
It seems like the only really important thing, and you know, what I get from the whole new life is just the destroying of all that we as humans think
Yeah.
we need and want and
Yeah,
comfort and all that is, you know.
so that you can live in the present.
So all the dressing comes off and what's left is this pure,
Now, right now, yeah. And actually, that's really, I mean, I hadn't thought of this, but that seems related to the enjoyment of suffering. Because if I'm in suffering, if I have hope, I'll hope for the suffering to end. But if I'm right in the now and past and future I'm not engaged with, I'm actively enjoying it.
It was also the crux of my Coxahead response to the Ghani Worm King yesterday.
Yeah. We read a whole bunch of it earlier this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I got him to admit that Baba didn't give it up entirely.
The king of worms is trying to win me over to his side. I'm not conceding the point yet, though. I'm gonna.
But you made it. It came right out of your mouth.
It was just a momentary aberration.
I'm hopeless.
So notice, heaven and hell are also repudiated. That's a big religious thing, right?
That goes to the abeyance of expectation of reward and punishment.
Yeah, that's right. I'm living a good life so that I can go to heaven at the end of it. And the enjoyment of suffering, you were just telling that story, that would be like in hell, in the hell state. Well, you would just enjoy it. You know, you're not affected by these things. Do you know what Shaktis and cities are?
I think they would, when I'm thinking about that, they would worry about that more living in India, because there's so much of that stuff going on, and you're passing people in the street that are dressed in whether Shaktis and cities and whatever.
Yeah, there is a lot of understanding of occultism in India at that time. And there are probably people who had those powers too, as a matter of fact.
That's true, and they're there.
Yeah, they're
as
real.
compared to here.
Those powers actually exist.
Yeah.
It's not like they're mythical, but we don't think about them. Okay, let's see. Also, brotherliness or fellow feeling is the link that exists. And this contributes to our present enjoyment of suffering. I find that a little puzzling, but I guess...
Misery loves company.
Yeah, it sounds like it does.
we're all in this together.
There seems to be a companionly dimension to the enjoyment of suffering.
Well, kind of a compassion, because you know everybody's having this.
Yeah.
Doing this. Also, in the new life, everybody's trying to do this too.
Yeah.
There's a great brotherly feeling.
No, that would be true. Like if they're trying to live in this wretched Belgaum with 2 inches of water where they're trying to sleep, where they're all in that state. Yeah, no, that would be true. They were actively experiencing it at that time. Okay, want to read another couple more letters from the mood, or has the new life driven you away with the last 2 verses?
Yep.
Or dear ones?
Dear ones, take seriously the words of Baba when he says, although now I am on the same level with you all, yet all orders from me, good, bad, extraordinary, you should all carry out immediately, leaving the result to God.
So this is that obedience thing. By the way, we brought this up before, but we're looking at the new life, and I don't have an answer to this at all. Now, or in the future, if the new life is going to be lived. How do we deal with this aspect of it? That is to say, Baba was the master in the sense that he required complete obedience. How is that going to happen for people trying to live the new life now? Just flip the question out. Go on reading.
Even if the heavens fall, do not let go of the hand of truth. Let despair and disappointment ravage and destroy the garden of your life. You beautify it once again by the seedlings of contentment and self-sufficiency.
It's a beautiful verse, isn't it?
Even if your heart is cut to bits, let there be a smile on your lips. Here I divulge to you a point worth noting. Hidden in your penniless hands is treasure untold. Your beggarly life will be the envy of kings of the world.
I bet you anything Gandhi just threw that in because he thought people wouldn't understand it. I bet in the future this will come to pass.
It's the poverty in his heart.
Yeah. By the way, it's, you know, that when Purdom gave his version of it, which John Stevens used in the original Tales from the New Life, the second edition corrected it, that he wrote, "Let not despair and disappointment."
Yeah.
And because I'm sure Purdom,
Oh, keep going.
let despair ravage the garden of your life. Let not that happen. But the whole spirit of the New Life is, let it happen. You know, we don't care. We're inviting calamity and destruction. But here we actually have a positive turn. You beautify it again. This is humanly true, is it not? When a complete disaster has overcome your life and you accept it with contentment, wonderful things arise from that. I've experienced that.
Or can I say that you still see some misprints around where it says let not?
Oh,
Yeah.
And Phyllis, who was really good friends with Purdom, said that he truly believed that he could not get past that with his, he was very much enamored of Christianity and Christ.
Yeah.
And he really thought that that's what it should be. And he published it.
Yeah.
And I guess Bob didn't say anything or whatever, you know.
Yeah. It was in the God-Man.
Right.
And now, this much Gandhi had written, and Baba liked it a great deal. But Baba then made the comment, he didn't want it to be misunderstood as advocating atheism or communism or something like that. So he wanted Gandhi to add a last verse to it. Because it's not at all clear that it's affirming the existence of God or... you see, Baba really wasn't trying to destroy religion, I don't think. It was destroying the trappings of it. All the paraphernalia that came along with it. So Gandhi had to write a last verse, failing which he would have to do 100 sit-ups. Baba had such a wonderful sense of humor. I mean, this was exactly pointed at Gandhi, and of course Gandhi, you know, was a great sport. Okay, anyone want to read the last one?
I can do that.
Okay, Melissa, you ready to take them up?
God exists indeed, and true are the prophets. Every cycle has an avatar, and every moment has a Wali. For us, however, it is only hopelessness and helplessness. How else should I tell you what our new life is?
I mean, it's a magnificent conclusion. In other words, we're not denying the fundamental truths of God's existence and the reality of incarnation. That's all there. But it has nothing to do with us. Helplessness and hopelessness. Yeah. Anyway, any last comments? Yeah.
It doesn't say it has nothing to do with it. Maybe it's saying it has everything to do with it.
Uh-huh. Okay. All right. Well, maybe you're right. It's saying it's only helpless. In other words, okay, how about this then? If God exists and the prophets are there, we're not going to pin hopes and desire for help on that. We're not going to ask God for things or have expectations of anything despite that. What do you think about that? Because he says for us it's only hopelessness and helplessness. Are you satisfied with that or not?
Hopelessness and helplessness is not necessarily different than God existing and
Yeah.
prophets are true.
No, I'd agree, I'd actually agree. But most,
Maybe the, like, foundation of it, as
uh-huh,
opposed to despite it.
yeah,
Or
okay,
not,
that's
I
true.
don't know.
In kind of conventional sakam bhakti, that is devotion where you're trying to get something from God, God's existence is the foundation for my asking Him for stuff. So that part of it is, we have nothing to do with that. We're not waiting for the avatar and the prophets to come along and help us. Yeah, done.
It seems that the experience of most people that I talk to or be around is that they aren't denying that God exists, but that we're so far away from that and perhaps undeserving, needing of forgiveness, whatever, the chances of getting any help are pretty slim.
Uh-huh. So maybe they can go into helplessness and hopelessness
Yeah.
from that.
But then do it in the right way. That's
Yeah. Right.
the way, the whole point of this is how to do that
Yeah, yeah.
in a way that we don't usually imagine.
It's quite a magnificent poem, actually. Of course, this is just the translation of it. I tried to find a transliteration of it, which would be nice, because even though you don't know all the words, and I don't either, you can pick out certain words and see what the Urdu Hindi version of it is. But, okay, well, let's break and we'll resume at 2:30. So thank you all very much. And I don't know, these meals are not the enjoyment of suffering at all.
Which is added on.
The enjoyment of great pleasure.
Yeah.